Good evening and welcome to Young Minds versus Maths Marathon of Class 10. Right. Here I want to give a clarification to everyone. Like I got a request from most of the students like asking to explain in Telugu also. So therefore the explanation will continue in both English and Telugu simultaneously. Right. This is to make the children feel comfortable to listen in the local language. Right. Today we are starting with real numbers, and here are the slides where you can pause and then you can take a screenshot and you can go through, or you can also take a printout, and then this is the theory behind complete real numbers, right? And every day, right? So every day 15 problems, that is between 10 and 15 problems will be given to you as like a slideshow, and immediately followed by the video of explanation of how to solve the problems. So those who are interested in only taking the questions and solving by themselves, it will definitely give a facility to them to solve by themselves, and afterwards you can listen to the video wherever, whichever problem you need, to that problem you can go and check the video so that you will have a clarification of like how you should think conceptually, right? So before we proceed to the video, please subscribe and share to all the friends, so that they will also get benefit out of it. Now moving on to the class. So Maths Marathon of Class 10 to the children who are appearing for May 2021 examination, and this is going to help all board children including CBSE board and the state boards, ICSE board also, like those whoever have all this syllabus can listen to the classes, and definitely this is going to give a clear concept of how you have to think. And now I know already that you all did this. So therefore, I'm going to cover the complete chapter, like first with the theory part, and then we will continue with the problems. And problem selection will also be random selection, because that is from the previous year questions. We collected the questions, as well as also based on certain concepts, most important questions that we can expect in board examinations are also collected. So therefore the problems will be of random kind, right, from the same chapter. There is no specific order saying that first concept, second concept, third concept. Hence, as an introduction to this session, I'm going to cover the whole chapter today. And here, when it comes to real numbers, this is the first chapter for Telangana State Board children. Of course, real numbers everybody have, every board have the syllabus, and the real numbers as per certain state boards is divided into two parts, where purely real number part and the other one is the logarithms part. So first today I'm going to cover real numbers part. Okay, and then immediately the next video will be with the problems under real numbers. Once when we are done with that, we will go we'll further continue with logarithms. Is that clear, children? So mano real numbers lo rendu parts ga divide cheskunte, first part real numbers, ఇవాళ థియరీ మొత్తం పూర్తయిపోతుంది. దెన్ నెక్స్ట్ వీడియోలో మీకు రియల్ నెంబర్స్ నుంచి ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ కవర్ అవుతాయి. ఆ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఒకసారి అయిపోయిన తర్వాత లాగరిథమ్స్ అనేది మనం మళ్ళీ థియరీ అండ్ ద ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ కింద కవర్ చేద్దాం. రైట్. Every student must know first of all what numbers are classified as. See, numbers are classified into one as imaginary number and the other one are real. So real numbers are the numbers what we are using till now. Right? Imaginary numbers, you have not yet come across that, but when you go to class 11 and 12, that is either in intermediate, right, first year and second year, then you will come across these numbers, imaginary numbers. Right now, let us focus on these real numbers. Real numbers is a huge set of numbers in which the subset is irrational. One subset is irrational and the other is rational numbers. One subset is irrational and the other is rational numbers. And inside the rational numbers is again a group in which you have integers. Integers have whole numbers in them and whole numbers have natural numbers in them. So now starting with the natural numbers, you all know that 1, 2, 3 and so on, these are natural numbers. When it comes to whole numbers, right, when it comes to whole numbers, 0 is included with the natural numbers. And then when it comes to integers, you have positive and negative numbers. You have positive and negative numbers. And when it comes to rational numbers, you have decimal values also. Right? And the other group which doesn't fall under rational numbers but are of course decimals, we are now going to discuss in detail about them. They are irrational numbers. So what are the irrational numbers? Right? Non-terminating as well as non-recurring decimals are irrational numbers. Now is it clear? So I repeat the whole thing here. In the number system, you will start with the natural numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. And when 0 is also included along with the natural numbers, that set will become the whole numbers. And along with the whole numbers, if you have introduced negative numbers also like -1, -2, -3 and so on, those form integers. And when like along with the integers, if you add also decimal values or include decimal values into them, that group will become the rational numbers. And the other group which does not fall under rational numbers is irrational numbers. So from this picture it is very clear that any of these numbers are all rational numbers. That means all natural numbers are rational numbers, or whole numbers are rational numbers, all integers are rational numbers, right? So all these are rational numbers. Now let us see in detail what is covered in the chapter and how the questions are framed and based on what the questions will be asked. See, when you come to the details of the chapter, you are going to discuss about Euclid's division lemma, right? This is very, very important theorem, right? This is something like, I'll explain you first example, then afterwards we'll go to the theorem. See, if you want to divide 9 with 2, right? So therefore, you will be writing it as 2 4s are 8, -8, 1. So here, the divisor is 2, dividend is 9 and quotient is 4 and the remainder is 1. So I can write 9 as 2 into 4 plus 1. Is it not? This is what we have learnt already. Like from many years we are doing that. This same concept is put in words like this, where all these are integers. Is it not? All these are integers. Now if there are two integers a and b, right, two positive integers, we are limiting ourselves to positive integers. We are not talking about negative integers in Euclid's division lemma right now, right? A and b, then there exists unique pair of integers q and r such that a can be expressed as product of b and q added to r. So here you can take a as 9, b as 2, q the quotient as 4 and the remainder as 1. Yes, so this is how the division lemma should be understood, right? It is not something new. It is not at all the one which is Greek and Latin to you, because this is what is like whatever the long division method you are doing everywhere. So that one we have just reduced into a mathematical equation. That's all. It is so simple, right? So a and b అనేవి two integers అయితే తప్పనిసరిగా క్యూ అండ్ ఆర్ అనేటువంటి రెండు ఎగ్జిస్ట్ అవుతాయి. ఎలా ఎగ్జిస్ట్ అవుతాయి అంటే ఈ కండిషన్ సాటిస్ఫై చేస్తూ ఎగ్జిస్ట్ అవుతాయి. ఏ ఈజ్ ఈక్వల్ టు బీక్యూ ప్లస్ ఆర్, రైట్? సో నవ్ హియర్ యూ కెన్ సే ఏ ఇస్ ద డివిడెండ్, బి ఇస్ ద డివైజర్, క్యూ ఇస్ ద కోషెంట్ అండ్ ఆర్ ఇస్ ద రిమైండర్. దాట్స్ ఆల్, రైట్? సో ఇది ఈ లెమ్మా యొక్క, ఈ డివిజన్ లెమ్మా యొక్క ఇంపార్టెన్స్ ఏంటంటే, ద సిగ్నిఫికెన్స్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ ఇస్ బేస్డ్ ఆన్ దిస్ you will be finding the HCF, The problems based on HCF using Euclid's division lemma will be asked in the public examination, as well as proofs, right? Like suppose there is a positive integer, see that it can be be expressed as, right? So such proofs will be asked here, right? And then next theorem is fundamental theorem of arithmetic. The next one is fundamental theorem of arithmetic. So here every composite number can be 8, can be 9, can be 6. So these are all composite numbers, right? So 8 can be expressed, right, into its factors, right? Like 2 into 4 is 8, but 4 is again a composite number. I can express this as 2 into 2, so therefore it is 2 cube. So 8 is equal to 2 cube. That means what is 2 here? 2 is the smallest prime number. So 8 can be expressed in terms of factors of prime factors, right? Into prime factors. Even 9 if you take 3 into 3, 3 square, 3 is a prime number. So prime factors we can express. Now if you take 6, 2 into 3. So 2 is a prime number, 3 is a prime number. So whichever composite number you are taking, right, all those composite numbers, right, whichever of your choice, they can be expressed as a product of primes. And this factorization is unique, right? This is unique, whatever may be the order in which the prime numbers fall, right? That means when you are finding the factors, in whichever order the prime numbers may come, but this factorization is unique. That means you can't have another set of prime numbers as factors to the same number. Did you get that one? That is the meaning of unique. అంటే ఒక పర్టిక్యులర్ నెంబర్ ఇచ్చినప్పుడు అది కాంపోజిట్ నెంబర్ అయితే దానికి మనం ఫ్యాక్టర్స్ రాయొచ్చు. ఎలాంటి ఫ్యాక్టర్స్గా రాయొచ్చు? ప్రతి కాంపోజిట్ నెంబర్ని కూడా ప్రైమ్ నెంబర్స్ యొక్క ప్రొడక్ట్గా రాయవచ్చు. అండ్ ఈ ప్రైమ్ నెంబర్స్గా మనం ఫ్యాక్టరైజ్ చేయడం అనేది యూనిక్గా ఉంటుంది. అది మళ్ళీ రిపీట్ అవ్వదు. అంటే వేరే రకమైనటువంటి ప్రైమ్ నెంబర్స్ వచ్చాయి అనేది ఉండదు. అన్నీ కూడా యూనిక్గా మనం దాన్ని ఫ్యాక్టరైజ్ చేస్తాము. ఓకే, రైట్. సో అవి ఏ ఆర్డర్లో అయినా ఉండొచ్చు. లైక్ సపోజ్ ఇఫ్ యూ టేక్ ద ఎగ్జాంపుల్ as 270 means 3 9s are, is it not? So I can write 3 into 3 into 3, right? Into 3 9s are 27 into 10. 10 is 5 into 2. So all these are prime numbers. See the order, it is falling somewhere. But usually we take the help, like usually whenever we write mathematically from earlier classes, from like we'll write it in ascending order, like 2 power 1, 3 cube into 5 power 1. So now I am not maintaining that order, just like that I am writing 3 cube into 5 power 1 and 2 power 1. Why? Because see, whatever may be the order in which you are writing, like means all the prime factors are falling here, but they are of unique set. 3 cube into 5 power 1 into 2 power 1. You cannot express it as something in multiples of 7, something in multiples of 11. It is impossible, right? It is impossible. That is why we call it to be unique factorization. Clear? Right. So based on this theorem, that is the fundamental theorem of arithmetic, you will be asked questions to find LCM and HCF. Usually you will find the factors like this, and then you will find the HCF and LCM. Let us take the example of 12 and 18. If you write the factors of 12, it is 2 square into 1, is it not 4 into 3? Right? If you write 18, 2 power 1 into 3 square. See, from the same set of factorization, you can extract LCM as well as HCF. Right? While defining LCM, we say that the highest powers, whatever highest powers are there, we take the product of the highest common powers to be LCM. Right? And then next here, these are the lowest product. That is HCF is 3. Which are the lowest powers here? 2 power 1, 3 power 1. Okay? So therefore, we will take this to be the highest one and the smallest one for HCF and the highest one for the LCM. Clear? So this is how we are going to go into the chapter. So in this particular page, what did we discuss? The numbers. Then Euclid's division lemma, very clear. A is equal to BQ plus R. Whenever A and B are given, definitely there will be some Q and R may be 0. R may be 0, no doubt in that, right? Because all these are integers only, and also we are talking about positive integers. And from here you will get HCFs and proofs. And the next theorem 1.2 is a fundamental theorem of arithmetic. From this theorem, that means every composite number can be expressed as the product of prime factors, and this factorization is unique, and whatever may be the order of the prime numbers that come as the factors, right? So now from this you will find LCM and HCF. So problems based on the theorems I mentioned, right? So when we go to the problems in detail part, so then you will see how to solve the problems, right? So now the next one is definition of rational number, right? You all know very well that any number which can be expressed in the P by Q form, where Q not equal to 0 is a rational number. But most of you will miss this point that P and Q should be the coprimes. What is meant by coprimes? Because why I am mentioning such points is because in objective type questions, such questions can be asked. Right, what is meant by coprimes? P and Q should not have common factors other than 1, right? So, when numbers do not have common factors other than 1, they are called coprime numbers. So, here P and Q, that means you will say 4 by suppose 8 if I take. So, we won't say 4 by 8 as rational number, but we will reduce it into its smallest form as 1 by 2. Right? So, this is a rational number. This is a rational number where there is no common factor other than 1 for these two. Other than 1 for these two. Like suppose if you have 6 by 9. Okay? 6 by 9. So, here what are the common factors you have? Yes, 3 is a common factor other than 1. So, therefore, we won't say it as a rational number. But of course, the value of this will be equal to the same number. But purely talking about the definition. And the definition nunchi manam alochiste 6 by 9 ki common factors evunai 6 ki 9 ki 3 undi. So 3 2s are 6, 3 3s are 9. So deenni manam rational number antam. We call this as a rational number because now you have a factor of 2 is 1, factor of 3 is also 1, which is common. So such numbers are called coprime numbers. So therefore it's a condition, it's a must that P and Q should be coprimes, right? Any number which can be expressed as P by Q and Q not equal to 0 and P and Q are coprimes are called rational numbers. Any number can be expressed like that, right? How to identify the rational numbers then? Right? How to identify? Every integer is a rational number. Here I have taken the example as plus 5. 5 by 1 can be a rational number. 5 by 1 is equal to 5. Suppose if I take a negative integer, minus 8. Minus 8 by 1. See, a P by Q form where Q not equals to 0. I took it in P by Q form. So, therefore, this is a rational number. And now, I don't have, these two are coprime numbers. 8 and 1 are coprime numbers. So, therefore, it is a rational number. So, any integer, every integer can be expressed as a rational number. Right? Now, terminating decimal. Right? Suppose if the whatever the number you have taken is a decimal number. Right? Whether it is a rational number or not, how do you identify? See, observe the decimal number. If you have a terminating decimal, that means after the decimal point, after certain numbers, it is ending there itself. Then that is called terminating. Terminating ante అక్కడతో ఆగిపోతుంది, దాని నుంచి కంటిన్యూ అవ్వదు డెసిమల్కి. అలా గనక ఉన్నట్లయితే దాన్ని టర్మినేటింగ్ డెసిమల్. దట్ మీన్స్ ఇట్ ఈస్ హియర్, ఇట్ ఈస్ ఎండింగ్. రైట్, ఇలా ఉన్న నెంబర్స్ అన్నీ కూడా దీస్ క్యాన్ ఆల్సో బీ ఎక్స్ప్రెస్డ్ ఇన్ పీ బై క్యూ ఫార్మ్. ఎలాగా? 125 by 10. రైట్, సో 125 by 100. Right, so if I write 125 by 10, it will become 12.5. And if I write 125 by 100, it will become 1.25. So something or the other, if 12.5 has to be expressed, yes, it can be written as 125 by 10. So it is 12.5. P by Q form again. And now you may say that, ma'am, this is not like, these are not coprimes. Yes, you reduce it. How can you reduce it? 5 2s are. Now 5 25s are. Right, 5 2s are 10, 5 5s are. So 25 by 2. So now here again these two are co-primes. So any number which can be expressed in P by Q form can also be reduced into co-primes. P and Q can be reduced to co-primes, and then that is a rational number. Now if suppose this is not terminating, that means still decimal points are there. After the decimal point you have so many digits. So then that is called a non-terminating, never-ending. What they are called? Never-ending. Non-terminating means they will never end. Like that you will write. Right? So, but the condition is that they should be recurring. That means they should repeat. Right? Now example 3.33333333333 never ending. So that means this can be expressed as 3.3 bar. Such numbers are also rational numbers. Such numbers are also rational numbers. Right? Then next, suppose if we take the example like 43.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and there is a bar here. Means again the same set will repeat like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and again the same. That means it is 43.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like that it will continue and it is never ending. So, but this is repeating. This set of numbers is repeating again. See, it is not necessary that only one number is repeated. A set of numbers are also repeated again and again and again and again forever. So, we call that to be recurring. So, non-terminating but recurring numbers are also rational numbers. Is that clear to everybody, students? Right. So, now the theorems, right? The other theorems what we have is Theorem 1.3. A rational number which has a decimal expansion of terminating kind. Right? A rational number which has a decimal expansion of terminating kind. Then that number P by Q is expressed in such a manner that Q will be in this form. 2 power n into 5 power m form. Right? That means if you have a decimal number which is terminating, you know that it is a rational number. Right? If that is a rational number, you know that that can be expressed as P by Q. Just now we have seen the example of 12.5 as 125 by 10. Right? I expressed that 12.5 as 125 by 10. So I can write it as 125 by 2 power. 2 into 5 is it not? That means 2 power 1, 5 power 1. So that means any terminating decimal number form of rational number can be expressed as P by Q such that Q can be expressed in the form 2 power n into 5 power m. 2 power n into 5 power m, where n and m should be integers and that too non-negative integers, means it's a must that they are positive. N and m should be positive integers. Clear? So let us see the example here. Suppose if I am taking 26 by 250. 26 by 250 value is 0.104. Okay, 0.104. But I can express this as 20. So it is terminating. This is the end. It is terminating. Now I can express this as 26 by 25 into 10 is 250. Yes or no? Yes, 25 into 10. But what is 25? 5 square. What is 10? 2 into 5. So 25 I wrote it as 5 square. Into 10 I wrote it as 2 into 5. So now if I see the powers, 5 square into 5 power 1 is 5 cube. And now this is 2 power 1. So this is expressed as 26 by 2 power 1 into 5 cube. Clear? So now 2 power n into 5 power m form it is expressed. So every such terminating decimal form of the integer can be expressed as P by Q, and Q can always be expressed, or Q is always of the form. Not can be expressed. Q is always of the form 2 power m into 5 power n or 2 power n into 5 power m. Condition is n and m should be only positive integers. N and m should be only positive integers. So this is another theorem. So based on that, you will be asked questions like without doing the division, proper division or the division method, can you say which particular following rational numbers are terminating? So such questions will be asked. So what you have to do is that in the given fraction form, whatever is there, the denominator, first check whether the denominator can be expressed in 2 power m into 5 power m, 2 power n into 5 power m form. If at all your denominator is reduced only into this form, that means there should not be something like 3 power 1. It should not be there. Or neither 2 should be missing nor 5 should be missing. It's a must that it should be in this form only this form. So if your denominator can be expressed in this form, then automatically you can say that the fraction yields or it gives a terminating decimal number. Clear? Such questions will be asked based on this theorem. Now theorem 1.4, it is a converse. Suppose if p by q is a rational number and q is equal to 2 power n into 5 power m, then absolutely p by q is going to be terminating decimal number. That's all the converse of this one. That means vice versa is possible. If p by q is a rational number, if q is expressed like this, then the result is a decimal number which is terminating. Or if p by q is a rational number and the given rational number is a terminating decimal, then absolutely q is of this form. అంటే ఇది జరిగితే అది జరుగుతుంది, అది జరిగితే ఇది జరుగుతుంది, వైస్ వర్స, ఇదైనా అదైనా రెండు కూడా సేమ్, right? So but they are given in two different statements, theorem 1.3 and theorem 1.5. The other way around also it is possible. Okay, right. సో నా థియరం 1.5. ఇప్పుడు మనం టెర్మినేటింగ్ డెసిమల్స్ ఎలా వస్తున్నాయో చూసాం. ఇలా కనుక ఎక్స్ప్రెస్ చెయ్యలేకపోతే ఏమవుతుందండి? పీ బై క్యూఏ కదా ఇచ్చింది, అయితే పీ బై క్యూనే కదా. ఏమవుతుంది? టెర్మినేటింగ్ డెసిమల్ ఫామ్ అవుతుంది. కానీ ఏమవ్వాలి? బట్ రికరింగ్ అవ్వాలి. ఎందుకని బట్ రికరింగ్ అవ్వాలి? నాన్ టెర్మినేటింగ్ డెసిమల్గా ఉండి రికరింగ్ అయితేనే రేషనల్ నెంబర్ అవుతుంది. నాన్ రికరింగ్ అయితే ఇర్రేషనల్ అయిపోతుంది. సో ఈ కండిషన్ ఏంటి? ఓన్లీ రేషనల్ నెంబర్ కండిషన్. సో 2 పవర్ n అండ్ 5 పవర్ m, బికాస్ p by q ఫామ్ అనే చెప్తున్నాం. So when a rational number is given in p by q form and q is expressed in this form, it is of terminating decimal. And if it can't be expressed, if q cannot be expressed like this, right, then it is of non-terminating but recurring decimal, right? Non-terminating but recurring decimal kind. Clear? Is that clear? Yes. So please first listen to the basics. If there are any sort of a little bit confusions, ఏదైనా ఎక్కడైనా మీకు చిన్న డౌట్ ఉన్నా ఇది ఒక్కసారి మళ్ళీ వినడం వల్ల మ్యాథమెటికల్గా మీకు క్లారిటీ అనేది వచ్చేస్తుంది. ఒక్కసారి క్లారిటీ వచ్చింది అంటే లెక్క చేసేటప్పుడు, ప్రాబ్లం చేసేటప్పుడు మిస్టేక్ ఏదైనా మీకు తెలియకుండా చేస్తుంటే మీ సబ్ కాన్షియస్ వార్నింగ్ ఇస్తుంది మీకు, దేర్ ఈజ్ అ మిస్టేక్, యూ ఆర్ డూయింగ్ సంథింగ్ రాంగ్ అని. ఆ సెల్ఫ్ చెకింగ్ కోసమే ఎప్పుడూ కూడా మ్యాథ్స్లో థియరిటికల్ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్లో చాలా స్ట్రాంగ్ ఉండాలి. థియరిటికల్ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్లో స్ట్రాంగ్ ఉంటే గుడ్డిగా వీ వోంట్ పుట్ స్టెప్స్ బ్లైండ్లీ ఇఫ్ వీ ఆర్ వెరీ స్ట్రాంగ్ ఇన్ థియరిటికల్ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్. ఓకే స్టూడెంట్స్, రైట్. సో లెట్స్ సీ ద నెక్స్ట్ పార్ట్. Now the next part, we are coming to irrational numbers. So rational and irrational numbers are two subsets of real numbers, is it not? So rational numbers complete part is done now. Now we are moving on to irrational numbers. Irrational numbers means which are not rational or irrational. How to identify them? First of all, they can't be expressed in the form of p by q. Right? And also if they are in the decimal form, they are non-terminating and also non-recurring. They are non-recurring. Continuously the digits will be changing and there is no point that a set of numbers will be repeated or a number is repeated periodically. Right? that kind of numbers are irrational numbers. Like examples are root 2, 1 point. See, usually whenever we do problems, no, for root 2 we will write always 1.414. Only this much part we are taking. It doesn't mean that root 2 absolute value is this. No. Root 2 is non-terminating, non-recurring number. Hence it is an irrational number. See here. 1.41421356237, so on. Like that it will be continuing. So you can't find the absolute value of root 2 at any cost. It will be continuing. So therefore it is called irrational number. Similarly, you can check for root 3 and root 5 values from internet. Then they will be giving you something like this. And now pi. Most of you will be thinking even now. If I ask pi means, immediately into your brain you will get 22 by 7. Pi is equal to 22 by 7 is not the absolute value, students. Children, it is not absolute value of pi. It is only an approximate value of pi. Pi, we take the approximate value as 22 by 7. See, 22 by 7 means p by q, q not equals to 0, and 22 and 7 are co-primes. That means this has to become a rational number, but it is not a rational number. Pi is not a rational number, it is a irrational number. See the value here, 3.141. So usually we take only this much of the thing. Right? 5, 9, 2, 6, 5, 3, 5, so on. See, you can't say any set of the numbers being repeated periodically. So everything is different. Right? And the repetition, if it is there also, somewhere it is. Right? And it is not following any order of repetition. So therefore it is an irrational number. Very, 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 very important concept is here. Because it is a question which is very frequently asked in the objective questions. Either for 1 mark question or half mark questions, this is always asked. Why is pi is equal to, somebody says pi is equal to 22 by 7. Then why is pi an irrational number? Question can be asked like that. So you should say that pi is equal to 22 by 7 is approximate value. It is not a rational number. It is irrational because it is having a non-terminating, non-recurring decimal expansion. That kind of explanation you have to give. Suppose, students listen here carefully. I am stressing in this point. Suppose in the question 22 by 7 is given and asked, like whether it is a rational number or irrational number, what will you write? Tell me, what will you write? 22 by 7 is p by q form. Directly if 22 by 7 is asked, then it is a rational number. It is a rational number because it is satisfying everything. It is in p by q form, q not equal to 0, and p and q are co-primes. You don't have any common factors here. So therefore, if 22 by 7 is asked, it is a rational number. If pi is asked, it is a rational number. So be clear with that. Right? So now theorem 1.6 is the next one. Right? If p is a prime number and divides a square, some number like which is a square, then definitely p also divides a is another theorem which you will be using, right? Or you will be discussing in this chapter. Right? So now only for the information for you people to understand, right, and to answer certain questions which may include, right, which may be tested in the expectation that how much basics you have in this. So for that case, I am going rational numbers and irrational numbers. Properties. Sum of rational numbers is always rational. You can take any example and prove it. And also difference of rational numbers is always a rational number. Excuse me. Also product of rational numbers is also rational number. Also division of two rational numbers is a rational number. Only the limit here is you are not going to take in denominator 0. Right? So in place of denominator, if you don't take 0, any other rational numbers when divided, they yield or they give a rational number only. This part is also very, very important here. Again, 0 is a rational number, no doubt in that. No doubt in that. Most of the children will get confused here. Repeatedly we say also, they always take like q not equal to 0 is there, q not equal to 0 is there, therefore 0 is a non-rational number. No, 0 is a rational number, but 0 should not be there in the denominator when you say that a p by q is a rational number. Clear? So therefore division also we define for rational numbers, and the resultant is also a rational number. Only the limit is that in denominator place you should not take 0. Other than 0 in the denominator, if you take any other number, also all the rational numbers, division will give a rational number always. Clear? Right? Is this point clear to you all? Right. Now coming to irrational numbers. So they can't be expressed in p by q form. Fantastic. Right. So sum of two rational numbers may or may not be irrational. Sum of irrational numbers may or may not be irrational. Sometimes they may be irrational, they may not be irrational. Like suppose if I am taking minus root 2 as an irrational number and root 2 as an irrational number, I am adding those two, I am getting 0, which is a rational number. So it is not necessary that always two irrational numbers sum or difference is always irrational. No, it may or may not be irrational. Also subtraction, also multiplication may or may not be irrational. Right? Now sum of rational and irrational numbers is always irrational. That means if you take an irrational number and add it to a rational number, the result is always irrational, irrational. Right? Now also multiplication. If you multiply, suppose 2 root 2. 2 root 2 is an irrational number. So when you are multiplying 2 to root 2 also, it becomes irrational only. It becomes irrational only. So when a rational and irrational numbers are combined in any manner, right, maybe by addition, by subtraction, by multiplication, right, so therefore at that time definitely the result is going to be always irrational. But only when two irrational numbers are taken for any operation, it is not necessary that the result is always irrational. It may or may not be irrational. Okay students, is that clear? So with this basic knowledge and with this theoretical knowledge in maths, so from the next video onwards, we will do the problems very quickly, because now we are very strong with the theory behind rational and irrational numbers. Clear? Right. See you again in the next video.